Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking the channel out today. My name is Agabus and this is your financial education channel. Today we got an article coming to us from Yahoo Finance around an interview or around a caller into the Dave Ramsey show. Now Dave Ramsey, just like Susie Orman, have been some of the go-to financial gurus for quite some time for a lot of Americans who are being introduced to finance or introduced to money. There are some things that I would wholeheartedly agree with them on, and there are some things that I would absolutely disagree on. This article came across this morning, and it was a little bit disheartening to read. I'm going to take a deeper dive into this caller's question and into Dave Ramsey's response. We'll go through the article, see what he has to say. I'll give my context and some color as well, and then we'll have to do a deeper dive into some Dave Ramsey shorts down the road here, because I think some of the information he provides is not as well based in facts as he might think. So for today, if you like what you see, please hit the like button below, comment your thoughts on Dave's response, and in general, if you think Dave or Susie's books, talks, interviews have been helpful to you, and anything you'd like to see or anything in particular responses to their advice here going forward. Today's article, again, is from Yahoo Finance. It's not arrogance, it's math. An Alabama man asked Dave Ramsey if he should be worried about the US dollar collapsing, and the celeb's response was cutting. Here is why. Before I get into the article, should someone be worried of the US dollar collapsing today, tomorrow, next week? I don't think so. In the next 10 years, 20 years, probably. Ray Dalio does a really good job of going through history to show us how every single civilization, every single monetary superpower has eventually come to a decline. So anybody who says that the US will be the superpower forever, I don't know how well that's based in fact. The article starts out, ever read the story about Chicken Little and the sky falling? Well, Americans may be feeling in a similar situation right now when reading about the de-dollarization of the American dollar. Of course, it's just fear, no factual evidence about de-dollarization. I've already got an idea of what this article is going to say here. The reports around de-dollarization are concerning enough to spur Zach, an Alabama caller, to call into the finance personality Dave Ramsey show to ask about how worried he should be as countries attempt to move away from the dollar. We've covered this a little bit on the channel here regarding the BRICS nations and the BRICS potential currency. We'll continue to review some of that as they advance their ideas around starting or creating a secondary reserve currency. But back to the article, Dave Ramsey, of course, gave him a response, but it was delivered in his usual style, naturally. Dave Ramsey's response, you're spending too much time on the internet. The BRICS nations, China, Brazil, and Russia, are the main three players here, and they already don't use the US dollar as their basis for international trade. Fact check. False. Of course, they're going to use some US dollars as a part of international trade just because it's the easiest and most common. So to say that those countries don't use it at all, I would say large Pinocchio noses on that. Not a new international currency to replace the US dollar. While Zach may have felt embarrassed, of course, because Dave Ramsey knows it all, by Dave's directiveness, the host went on to explain this means there really isn't anything to fear. Granted, the goal of these three countries, as well as some other countries potentially in the Middle East, is to create their own joint currency, Ramsey stated. Such an idea has brought about the interest of some countries, including Saudi Arabia, who has stated that the country would be open to the idea, and a few other countries have joined in along. But for a new currency to replace the dollar, it would need significant international uptake. The dollar was on one side of nearly 90% of foreign exchange trades in April of 2022, according to the Bank of International Settlements. And estimates from the Fed show that between 1999 and 2019, 96% of trade invoicing in Americas, 74% in Asia Pacific, and 79% in the rest of the world were carried out in USD. Fun fact, those numbers are all down from a historical context. Meanwhile, global trust in the United States dollar remains high. How do we know that? Because the U.S. Dollar Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says so. The same Fed report found that the dollar made up 60% of globally disclosed official reserve assets as of 2021, which is down again in the last 50 years, which the analysts say signifies the currency is expected to hold on to its value in the future without losing too much of its purchasing power. Will this combined dollar devalue the U.S. dollar? Well, while the U.S. dollar has reigned supreme over the better part of the last century, other countries have accused the U.S. of weaponizing that power. Countries like Russia, Saudi Arabia, and China are keen to claw back some of that power. Some of this was brought up during the Russia-Ukraine war when Russia was taken off of the SWIFT system. Back to the interview, Dave Ramsey points out that similar worries popped up when the EU put the euro in place. Quote, "We had this exact same crap when France did away with their own currency. Brexit was a big deal when the UK was going to get involved or not, and the euro is now traded all over Europe," said Dave. He went on to state that just as with the euro, any new currency would still simply convert to the US dollar. And while these countries may be large, they don't take up a lot of the gross domestic product on a global scale. This will be a fun future video that will go through to fact check some of these numbers. Dave Ramsey says when you put them all together, they really don't take up a lot of muscle to take down the dollar. They just don't. Whatever little currency you create in your fantasy world you've created over there, you're still going to trade it for dollars. Of course, the dollar will reign supreme forever. But fear sells. Unfortunately, Ramsey and his team believe this kind of fear over de-dollarization is merely meant to get views for online news outlets, maybe like this channel. It's happened before, and it'll happen again, they say. But for the second part of the caller's question, should I be concerned about how I'm saving and investing? And the host reassured Zach there's no need to change his strategy over potential new currency. The article concludes Dave saying it's not arrogance, it's just math. It's not that I'm blinded by the flag or by patriotism. It's asinine. I find it so interesting that a man who talks so much about debt and how awful debt is and how you should get out of debt and how you shouldn't pay so much interest on your debt doesn't seem to worry so much about global debt or sovereign debt or a potential sovereign debt crisis that is occurring. It's just very strange to me how the advice he gives is so broad yet so minute in some of the details that he offers. This article about Dave Ramsey's advice on de-dollarization made me really want to go down the Dave Ramsey rabbit hole. And I will be bringing some other videos to light on some of the advice and comments that he puts out. Again, I think he's done phenomenal to start the conversation for folks to say, you need to start saving. You need to start putting money away for retirement and for future. However, I think some of the advice he has given is just speculative and from maybe a couple books that he has read. We will dive deeper in future episodes, so stay tuned. As always, thank you so much for checking in on the channel. Make sure you stay inquisitive, you stay informed, and stay subscribed for more that we produce. And always, thank you so much for watching the episode to the end. We will see you tomorrow.